Phoneybeetlemaniacxs here, and no, this is my second video, or third video if you count the hangout, in 2 days, but this is important, because Livelive8072 has put out this video that, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, and it's offensive, it's grotesque, and it's not going to be older quick enough. So sit back, relax, because this isn't going to be any fun.
Part 1. Series Overview. I have been examining for some time now how people act when they claim God talks through them, states they have the Holy Spirit within them, among them, talking in tongues, and so on. I need to stress that I am not a medical professional, and need to state these are only my opinions.
And already you've proven yourself to be inept in what you're talking about, because this is a medical field, Joe. This is something that you have to be trained in to order to give a actual overview of how it works, the sort of neural parts of the brain. And when you talked about any sort of experience, whether it be natural, supernatural, whatever, what parts of the brain are being, why is that wrong? Why is that something that should be happening? Why is it away from what we could consider normative behaviour? You see, the thing is that psychologists and neurologists have studied these things, and there's no difference between a religious brain and a non-religious brain. There just isn't, and I'm sorry. That is something that you have to prove, and if you're not a medical professional, you will not understand that that is the case, and that is how it is. Now, people hearing God talk to them, and people don't always mean that in the same way that you mean it. Or talking in tongues can just sometimes be peer pressure. It doesn't have to be a psychosis of any kind. Again, different environments can cause different sort of, and also different sort of social environments can cause it as well. It isn't nothing to do with a psychosis or anything like that.
In this series, I will look at the psychological aspect of religion, as I have experienced and researched. I know this series will be controversial, but I wish to create civil discourse in the comments sections. I believe most people who are devoutly or fundamentally religious have a psychological disorder.
What you believe is irrelevant. Your opinion has no bearing on the facts or the medical necessity of those facts. This is a medical disorder. That's like me telling you have cancer because you may have coughed once in your video. It's the same sort of fallacy, Joe. It's called an appeal to authority, your own authority, when you have none. You're not a psychologist. You're not trained in this matter. You shouldn't be commenting on this matter unless you are. This is something that is important, and a lot of people go through, but of all religious bents have to go through. And you think their suffering is negated by what you think? It isn't. Fundamentalism or religion in general is not a mental illness or psychosis or anything like that. It has never been proven to be. So basically, your argument is the fallacious one.
One namely being psychosis, which refers to an abnormal condition of the mind, and is a generic psychiatric term for a mental state often described as involving a loss of contact with reality. Most of the religious fundamentalists commonly have delusions of grandeur.
Did you see that? We had religion come mental illness. Bit insulting there, isn't it? Joe, pick up a psychology book. Don't go by what your friends are telling you. Go by actual articles. Go by case studies. Go by neurology. You see, a psychosis is a removal from reality. Well, just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's not their reality or what we consider normative reality. They're just interpreting information in a different way to you. That doesn't mean that their brain is abnormal. We have done psychological studies and neurological studies on this, and they are in no way more abnormal to you. This is a sort of thought that got gay people and homosexuality slandered as mental illness back in the day. It was a lack of understanding of how psychology actually works, and that is apparent here. Especially when you talk about grandiose delusion. No, a lot of fundamentalists think that they are one of a symbiotic society. That their actions and what they feel, that our own actions are for our own illness, our own ills, and that is represented in society. Because even if we don't want to call it God, what we do to society, whether it be the removal of the forest, or the way that we treat money or the way we treat each other, has a negative correlation. So what they call God can be seen in nature, and we begin to see a pattern here.
Which is a delusion common in paranoia, that you are much greater and more powerful and influential than you really are. Many of the religious think they have a higher authority or a higher moral code over humanity. They do not, and you often see these types of people committing crimes against humanity.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this. No, Joe, you're taking people who are outliers, who probably would have committed a crime anyway, because they're antisocial, because they have a certain neurotical makeup. Because you can't just take that and say, well, that proves that my conclusion about religion right. It's called a circular argument. What you need to do is do a pattern of what causes it, and usually what you will find is a certain neurological type or certain social pressures, or even so three. It is not just one thing. God.
Some claim a defense of God told me to do it, the devil made me do it, or it says so in the Bible. I need to emphasize that I am not stating all religious people lose touch of reality or have a mental disorder. I will state, though, many do.
And that's a medically undefensible position, Joe. And it doesn't matter, as I said before, it doesn't matter what your opinion is. This is facts. Your opinion does not take the facts. They aren't mentally unwell. There's been no research to say they are. There's no articles to say they are. There've been no case studies to say they are. The neurological studies have proven inconclusive. Again, you're taking your own personal opinion and applying it to something that is a medical field. This video has the same medical impacts as homeopathy has.
I recently uploaded a video of someone claiming that God had spoken to them. All of us do have an internal dialogue in which one talks to themselves or hears their voice inside their mind. This is considered normal. But once you truly believe that an external source, i.e. a god, Satan, or someone other than you is talking to you, or you have a one-on-one imaginary dialogue with said voice, is where I personally believe you have crossed over into the realm of mental illness.
That is incorrect. Your personal opinion has no bearing on the matter. You're just incorrect. What you're seeing as an internal dialogue is some people pertaining to what they perceive as God, or that God actually does speak to them. But again, if you're in the idea of, well, God doesn't actually exist and therefore he can't speak to you, you're in a very inconclusive behaviour, because psychology dismisses that because you can't prove or disprove whether a God actually speaks to you. And usually they find it's either an internal dialogue or something they misunderstood, or it could be the legitimate thing. Again, we don't know. And as it's unknown, we can't clarify whether it is or is not a mental disorder or not.
Some illnesses start off as depression or depressing thoughts, which can lead to hallucinations, delusions, suicidal thoughts, and eventually end with a professional diagnosis of psychosis, schizophrenia, paranoid personality disorder, and or other mental disorders. Most people refuse an evaluation, treatment, and when religion is involved, it is taken, for the most part, as normal or harmless to themselves, others, or in society. I disagree with this and feel there is a need to speak out against this issue on protecting mental illnesses due to religion.
Joe, you're in debt. This is not how psychology works. I'm losing track of how many times I could say this sentence. This is not how it works. Just because your opinion has no bearing on the matter, Your beliefs have no bearing on the matter. What you personally perceive from quote unquote reality has no bearing on the matter. What it matters is medical opinion, and the medical opinion says it does not count because it is not. Because it is what's considered normative behaviour. You have to prove that it is unnormative or abnormal. You can't prove that because it's part of natural human society. If it wasn't, we wouldn't all be religious now, would we?
I would like to propose a question to the viewers here. Imagine if you were at a convenience store, the shopping mall, the bank, and someone came up to you and started to do this.
It's something called a moshokoto mazata, lata totomotondo, tikishakada kapokoto koto kalakamashiti. Kali shikoto bokoto, labakatai shakapo, chokolekamokotea. I love you.
What would you say?
It doesn't matter what their fucking opinion is! Jesus Christ, this is like talking to a door. I'll make this clear for Joe and the people who answered, I think that would be a mental illness there, Joe. I'll answer it. Your opinion matters nothing. Nothing. It does not matter what your opinion is. This is the same argument that we get from craziness. For fuck's sake, you can't disagree with fucking fact on how medical illness actually work. Sorry, I'm just getting furious now. Joe. Read a goddamn book!
What would you do? I personally would call 911 and recommend the authorities to have this person evaluated psychologically. This is just not a stunt. This is not divine power. This is a form of psychosis which could lead to very disturbing outcomes, including suicide or mass murders.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry at this. It's the basest, stupidest idea of how psychology works I've ever heard. We've never heard the Rational Response Squad talk about this bullshit. I mean, seriously, Joe. No! No, 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 no. This is not how psychology works. You cannot say there's going to be an effect when there's a cause. You cannot have somebody committed. The only people who can have people committed is the family members. And that's with just cause. If they're doing something that is perceived to be dangerous or seen to be dangerous to themselves. But you're basing it upon the actions of a few outliers. So, what you're basing it upon is your own interactions with the material, not with actual goddamn facts. You as a stranger can no more commit somebody than I could commit you. Just stop!
Signs and symptoms could range from hallucinations, delusions, catatonia, thought disorder, and many others. Next time you go to church and people are doing this, think of this. In my rational mind, I see no difference.
Well, the only response to that is this.
I would like to add, when God doesn't answer prayer due to being in a very depressed state at a point in your life, take it upon yourself and seek professional help. Supernatural intervention will not help due to the lack of evidence for it. This can lead to a very dangerous psychological disorder if not treated professionally.
No, we can't, but again, we've covered this because it's not necessarily the case, it's not abnormal. And depression is just a normal part of humanity, unless it's hyper-depression. But again, or bipolar depression. But again, you would know the difference. Depression is just a part of normal human behaviour.
I need to state that having a mental illness is not a bad thing. I'm stating that if you or others think you have the symptoms, please seek professional help, as this can help you and others in your life. You can be treated to live a better life. I don't think believing in religion or having faith is a bad thing, as long as you don't take it to the extent of having delusions, hallucinations, or talking to external sources or external sources talking to you. These are known psychological conditions.
No, they are not, but again, not necessarily, because again, you have to understand that everybody's synoptics works in a slightly different way to everyone else. Now, there can be common symptoms, but they're not going to be exactly the same. It's not like a medical illness where the bacteria works in exactly the same way. Our brains are wired a little bit differently to each other. That's how we get different personalities and such. So not necessarily. Again, you could have perfectly normal things that are replicated as symptoms and just occur once or twice normally. Just because you don't believe something doesn't make it not true, or doesn't mean that it doesn't actually happen.
And religion should not get a special pass. To end this video, I would like to propose another question. Should religion get a special pass when it comes to known mental illnesses? Imagine if there were only one Christian in the world and they were talking in tongues, dancing, claiming the Holy Spirit is in them. Would they be committed to a psychiatric ward? In my opinion, I highly think so. Stay tuned for part 2, coming soon. Thanks for watching, and please let me know what you think. Remember, live life, because you only have one.
And again, your question is bullshit because it's based upon your own prepossessions or biases and not based upon actual facts. And as we furthered, your opinion is meaningless. I'm sorry, it just is. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. Because if it did, creationism would be correct, because that's what their opinion is. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. If there was just one Christian, no, it wouldn't be a mental illness. Religion gets a pass because it's part of normal behaviour. This is not based upon, because people don't want to stick it to religion. It's because we've done the psychological test. There's no difference between the psychological makeup of a non-believer's mind and a psychological believer of a believer's mind. They're both exactly the same, and there is no abnormal behaviour going on. That's why the reason it gets a pass. It's not because we just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's because the evidence doesn't bear it out, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is. If the evidence doesn't bear you out, then I'm sorry, you're wrong. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. It doesn't matter whether you think because you don't believe it. Whether it doesn't matter whether you think it's I think it's a mental illness, but everyone else is just trying to not hurt people's feelings. None of that is true. It's because the evidence doesn't bear it out, and the people who say it does have been found out and either recanted or been thrown out of the academic profession because the evidence doesn't bear them out. And I'm sorry, that's the state of play here. Now, if Joe wants to respond to this, he may do so. If anyone else wants to respond to this, they do so. But ask yourself this question, and this is a legitimate question. Does your opinion affect the facts? If not, then why should I rejudge my position? Because the facts so far, I disagree with Joe, not with me. This is food for thought. This is Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, Phoneybeetlemaniacxs, True, out.